So let me ask you something. If your performance has been going in the wrong direction despite consistent training and your recovery just keeps getting worse and worse and worse instead of better, and your motivation has dropped in a way that feels qualitatively different from just being tired, or you're picking up injuries more frequently than you used to, what's your normal instinct? And for most athletes, that instinct is to push harder, to train through it, and to build more fitness. I understand that impulse, but in this situation, it's exactly the wrong response. And understanding why requires understanding what overtraining actually is at a physiological level. Hey, I'm Dr. Jason Barker. I'm a naturopathic doctor. I'm a two-time Ironman finisher and 20 plus years working with endurance athletes. So let's get into what's actually happening in your body when overtraining occurs, because that mechanism changes everything about how you're going to approach it. All right, first let's clarify what overtraining actually is, because it gets misused constantly. It's not simply training too much. That framing misses the point. Overtraining is a mismatch between your training stress and your capacity to recover from it. And that distinction matters enormously, because you can be overtrained even at moderate training volumes if your recovery systems aren't keeping up. The volume isn't the primary variable here. It's the gap between stress and recovery. Now, clinically, we think about this on a spectrum, and knowing where you are on that spectrum changes how you're going to respond. So at one end is functional overreaching, short-term intentional accumulation of training stress followed by a planned recovery block that produces a supercompensation response. That's a normal productive part of periodized training. It's supposed to happen. If that imbalance continues without adequate recovery, you slide into non-functional overreaching. Performance begins to decline, recovery takes longer, and you don't bounce back between sessions the way you used to. This can persist for weeks to many, many months. Push further without intervention and you get into overtraining syndrome. And at that point, the effects become systemic. So we're not talking about tired legs or a bad week. We're talking about whole body physiological disruption that can take months or several months or sometimes even longer to fully resolve. And this is where athletes get into real trouble, because the symptoms at this stage are often severe enough to be mistaken for illness or depression rather than a training-induced physiological state. So what's actually happening in the body here? Well, there are four systems taking the hit simultaneously, and the way they interact and compound each other is what makes overtraining syndrome so difficult to dig out of. So the first is your nervous system. Chronic training stress keeps the sympathetic nervous system chronically activated. Essentially, you're stuck in fight or flight mode. Now, over time, the capacity to shift into parasympathetic mode, which is rest and digest, so to speak, becomes impaired. The nervous system loses its flexibility. You'll see this clinically as elevated resting heart rate variability that's consistently suppressed, poor sleep quality, and that wired but fatigued pattern that we've talked about throughout the series. The body is simultaneously exhausted and also unable to downshift. That's a nervous system that's lost its regulatory range. The second is the hormonal system, and this is where the physiology gets particularly interesting. Now, the HPA axis, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis that governs your stress response, initially responds to chronic overtraining by upregulating cortisol production. Cortisol is elevated, driving tissue catabolism, which is breakdown, and impairing recovery. But in more advanced or prolonged cases, the system essentially exhausts itself. Cortisol becomes flattened or blunted. The HPA axis can no longer generate the output it's supposed to. That shift from elevated to flat cortisol is a sign that things have progressed significantly. Alongside that, you'll typically see reductions in testosterone and DHEA, the primary anabolic hormones responsible for tissue repair, muscular adaptation, and recovery. Remember from my earlier videos that cortisol and testosterone share upstream precursor hormones. So when cortisol chronically dominates this pathway, testosterone production gets suppressed as a direct biochemical consequence of this. So you end up with high catabolism and impaired anabolism simultaneously, a hormonal environment that is essentially working against recovery at every level. Now, the third system is immune function. The relationship between exercise and immunity follows what researchers call a J-shaped curve. Moderate training improves immune function, but chronic high-load training without adequate recovery suppresses it. Specifically, overtraining reduces secretory IgA, a key component of mucosal immunity, and impairs natural killer cell activity. This is why overtrained athletes get sick more frequently and why upper respiratory infections cluster around periods of peak training load. And beyond acute illness, the persistent low-grade inflammation that characterizes overtraining syndrome reflects an immune system that's lost its regulatory capacity. It can no longer efficiently resolve inflammatory responses, so they linger and just compound. And the fourth is energy system function. Mitochondrial efficiency becomes impaired under chronic overtraining stress, partially through oxidative damage to mitochondrial membranes and proteins, partially through substrate depletion that's never fully restored. Energy availability drops at the cellular level. This shows up as fatigue that doesn't respond to rest, which is actually one of the diagnostic hallmarks of overtraining syndrome. Decreased endurance capacity and performance that keeps declining even when training load is reduced. The athlete rests but doesn't recover because the energy production machinery itself is compromised. So what do you actually do about this? The first and most important step is adjusting the training load and being honest about what that requires. For some athletes, this means a significant reduction in volume and intensity. For others, it may mean a complete break from structured training for a period of time. What it always means is stopping the practice of adding stress to a system that's already overwhelmed. You cannot recover from a hole that you're still digging. The second step is aggressively supporting recovery through nutrition. Carbohydrates first. They're the primary fuel for both training and the hormonal recovery processes that happen afterward, and chronically low carbohydrate availability is one of the most common contributors to HPA axis dysregulation in athletes. Adequate protein for tissue repair in the range of 1.6 to 2.2 grams per kilogram or 0.7 to 1 grams per pound. Consistent electrolytes, and sleep genuinely prioritized, not just nominally, because that's when cortisol tapers, testosterone peaks, and growth hormone does the majority of its tissue repair work. Third, you target the specific systems that are dysregulated. Magnesium glycinate for nervous system regulation and sleep quality. Omega-3 fatty acids at 2 to 4 grams of EPA and DHA daily for inflammation regulation. Adaptogens, specifically ashwagandha for HPA axis recalibration, and rhodiola for stress resilience and mitochondrial support, can be genuinely useful here, particularly for athletes dealing with the cortisol dysregulation piece. And if energy production impairment is persistent, mitochondrial support with CoQ10 and L-carnitine addresses the cellular energy deficit directly. For the immune component, a few additional compounds are worth considering. Eleuthero, also known as Siberian ginseng, has actually been used in Soviet-era sports medicine research specifically for overtraining recovery, with evidence for immune modulation and stress resilience. Around 300 to 400 milligrams of a standardized eleuthero extract daily is ideal here. And glutamine at 5 to 10 grams daily specifically supports gut barrier integrity, which matters because intestinal permeability is far more common in overtrained endurance athletes than most people realize, and it drives systemic inflammation that can compound the entire picture here. And here's where precision becomes genuinely important. If someone is overtrained, there are almost always measurable physiological changes that can be identified through lab testing. Cortisol rhythm disruption, assessed through a multi-point salivary test, not a single blood draw, low testosterone, low DHEA, low ferritin, elevated oxidative stress markers, and gut permeability markers like zonulin or LPS antibodies that reflect intestinal barrier breakdown that's so common in this population. When you can see those markers, you stop guessing about what to address and start targeting the actual problem directly. That changes the trajectory of recovery significantly, from slowly trying things and hoping something works to identifying the specific physiological deficits and addressing them precisely. So to bring this all together, declining performance, worsening recovery, fatigue that doesn't respond to rest, and increasing injury frequency are not signs that you need to train harder. They're signs that the balance between stress and recovery has broken down at a physiological level, and that requires a physiological response, not a motivational one. Adjust the training load to stop widening the gap. Rebuild the nutritional foundation. Target the specific systems that are dysregulated with evidence-based interventions. And if you're not getting the traction you should be getting, use lab testing to find out exactly where the breakdown is occurring. That's how you stop declining and you start actually rebuilding. In the next video, we're going into lab testing for recovery, what to look at, what it tells you, and how to use it to stop guessing and start solving the right problem. Please hit like and subscribe if this was useful. I post science-backed content on performance and recovery regularly. And for individualized testing, protocols, and deeper guidance, visit naturalathleteclinic.com. I'm Dr. Jason Barker. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.